I want to start off by saying that I am glad this game was made. I had fun with a lot of the dialogue, voice acting, and art direction, and so it really does pain me to say this because I get the sense that almost everyone on board had fun making it. It was really cool seeing Lee Grainer involved. I watch mostly Walking all the time. But unfortunately, I think it's pretty near the bottom as far as the series goes. After you initially leave Melee Island, the puzzle quality dips hard. I had fun with maybe 2 puzzles the entire game. There's way too much linear to-do listing and scavenger hunting. It felt like too much of a course correction from old adventure game mechanics where you would mash together random items to accomplish seemingly random goals. Yeah, it could be tedious and sometimes nonsense, but it was also kind of unavoidable if you wanted to create engaging gameplay beyond just being an interactive narrative experience. And this game demonstrates in part why. There was, of course, a lot of frustration in that old design, but there was still a lot of clever brain teasing that forced you into abstract thinking. And the absurdity of that puzzle logic was also part of the humor. I'm not very good at puzzles, and I still breeze through almost everything in this game. The stuff that I didn't get and needed hints for was because the setups for the solutions were too obtuse, not having enough of a prompt about what at all I was even supposed to be doing sometimes. I just feel like they could have come up with some kind of middle ground or new spin on typical adventure game mechanics instead of just giving us a grocery list. It's like, okay, it's all logical and streamlined now, but it kind of saps the fun out of it. Even with that, I was still pretty on board until the ending. Regardless of their intent, it just felt like the rug being pulled out from under me. Why was anyone doing anything? What happened to them? Doesn't matter, I guess. I get what they were going for here, I really do, and I think it was kind of clever to tie this back to the ending of LeChuck's Revenge, but that's also my least favorite ending. None of the other Monkey Island games have overtly meta or fourth wall breaking endings. The original has a fourth wall breaking dialogue option at the end, and Curse's ending is a nod to 2, but that's it. Whether Guybrush is just a dude having fun at a theme park with his family, or an actual pirate who likes embellishing his stories, that largely doesn't matter. It's open to interpretation. But however you view it, or whatever the perspective is meant to be, doesn't change the fact that the story being told up until that point just aborts at the climax. Regardless of thematic intent, canonical intent, or who's telling the story, real Guybrush, fake Guybrush, the writers, or both, a story is still being told by someone. And this story was simply unfinished. So what was the point in telling it? It comes across as an overly self-referential and self-reverential stroll through the series' history, instead of just giving us an adventure with a conclusion. Yes, most of the Monkey Island endings are obtuse nonsense, but they're still conclusions. Not having one is just a blaring neon sign that the story was never worth telling in the first place, even if that wasn't their intention. And so it comes across as the creators running out of money instead of a tonal/thematic shift. It becomes Ron Gilbert's story instead of Guybrush's, which isn't why most of us are here. They could have done the exact same thing after completing a basic narrative arc, and it wouldn't have changed whatever effect the writers were trying to achieve. They just decided for us that we didn't need the rest. Is the message supposed to be that our collective attention on the series is what was ultimately important? Okay, maybe, but that seems pretty broad. How real or unreal or meta a story is doesn't affect people's investment in a world that they enjoy and in the events taking place within them. People like the Caribbean of the Monkey Island games. They like Guybrush, they like Elaine, they like the cartoony sarcasm. Not to get sappy, but the lore is real to the people who enjoy it. And so the absurd mechanics just become part of that reality. However much the creators are attempting to peel back the curtain shouldn't derail the story being told. Fourth wall breaking is a stylistic choice. Fourth wall breaking is not a story in and of itself. The 2015 game, The Beginner's Guide, uses that kind of storytelling as a framing and narrative device. It introduces us to the rules of how we're going to engage with the story being told, and then gradually shifts the tone and mood to one of deeper and deeper introspection as it progresses. Even though the game is seemingly built on a kind of fourth wall breaking subversion of expectations, the events of how the narrator and Coda's lives interact with each other could still be translated to almost any other style of storytelling, because the events and interactions still resolve in some manner. Resolutions don't always need to be definite and clearly spelled out, But we absolutely do, as audience members, need to feel like we've witnessed a transpiring of ideas, that minds or attitudes were changed to a certain degree, that the pieces on the board have been moved. That's catharsis in the classical sense, and it feels weird that that needs explanation, but Return to Monkey Island pushes its own reason for being into the background in order to have us all take a deep breath and reflect. But on what? I came here to play a fun, cartoony game about a pirate, and instead got the world's most convoluted, drawn-out retirement letter. If the creators of this game wanted to make some kind of commentary on player and author interaction and how it relates to the material, then they should have just tried to make the game open-ended for the player throughout, instead of just the largely pointless choose-your-own ending. If it was meant to be a philosophical musing on the power of imagination and our subjectivity being what keeps Melee Island quote-unquote alive, then it needed to be an ongoing mechanic of the game and not just a framing device. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to keep pimping out my Star Wars discussion, Plastic and Dust, What Makes Star Wars, because it has a lot of really good ideas in it. See you later.